This week's blog post is my favorite recommendations of 2022, part 4. This is the final part. In 2022, I emailed 158 art-related items to members of my Free Sunday Recommendations list. For supporters, I recommended 52 more items. This week includes my favorites in the categories of decorative arts, music, movies, and TV. 6 of these were originally shared only with supporters. In decorative arts, the winner is Mark Boddington's Furniture. Mark Boddington established Silver Lining, a furniture-making business based in Wales, in the United Kingdom, more than 35 years ago. You'll find his bespoke pieces in palaces, corporate headquarters, yachts, private jets, and private homes, or you can look them up on his website. Among my favorites are the Crescent single-seater chair, the champagne drinks table, the cosmic dining table, a drinks table, the land, sea, and sky table, and the Fibonacci cabinet. I ran across Boddington's name in the Dick Francis novel Come to Grief from 1995. Sid Halley in the story has a Boddington piece in his home. The runner-up in decorative arts is Water Entertainment Technologies, which has made fountains in New York, Dubai, and many other places from the 1980s to the 2010s. Water Entertainment Technologies was founded in 1983 by 3 Disney Imagineers, Mark Fuller, Melanie Simon, and Alan Robinson. Their innovative mechanisms, many of them manufactured in-house, included laminar flow fountains, water that spurts up from open-jointed pavers, and robotic water nozzles that allow the fountains to be choreographed to music. What's most famous project is the fountain at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, which incorporates 4,500 lights and 1,200 nozzles that shoot water as high as 240 feet. In New York City, WT created the fountains outside the Brooklyn Museum, the fountains at Columbus Circle, and the fountain at Lincoln Center. The more recent Dubai fountain incorporates lights and nozzles that stretch 902 feet along the ground, and the water shoots 500 feet high. The amazing Surreal fountain in Dubai uses water and fire. You can see WT's website for video of that fountain. YouTube also has a plethora of videos of all the fountains that I've mentioned here. Hat tip, Iris B. Moving on to music, classical and popular. The winner is Beethoven, 7th Symphony, 4th Movement, which was written in 1811-12. The performance that I've given you a link to is 2016. Heather MacDonald is one of the few political writers that I read regularly. This is a long quote from her essay, Classical Music Under Racial Attack. Quote, "Today's warriors against classism would presumably accuse José Antonio Abreu, a Venezuelan socialist economist, of being an unwitting tool of white patriarchal power, in the words of the BBC magazine. Abreu founded El Sistema, a program of free classical music training for barrio children in Caracas, in the belief that playing Bach, Schubert, and Brahms would help deliver them from poverty and crime into a higher and better world. El Sistema, Abreu said in 2008, was meant to," this is a quote within a quote, "reveal to our children the beauty of music so that music shall reveal to our children the beauty of life." End of quote, but continuing MacDonald, "Philip Ewell can sneer at Beethoven as, at best, above average. The BBC magazine can snark that the formula for musical greatness only appears to be wild hair plus cantankerousness plus 32 sonatas, but is in fact a manufactured quality bestowed by classical music industries in order to sell scores of greatness to as many people as possible." Back to MacDonald, "The graduates of El Sistema know better, including its most famous product, Gustavo Dudamel, conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Dudamel said of Beethoven during a live HD concert broadcast in 2011, quote, "He is not just the reference point of classical music, he is the master of us all. The 7th Symphony is happiness. It's the only word that I find perfect for this music." End of quote, and end of the MacDonald quote. The link that I've given you is to Dudamel conducting the 4th movement of the 7th Symphony with the Simón Bolívar Symphony Orchestra of Venezuela. All right, we have two runners-up. The first is Mozart, Concerto for Flute, Harp and Orchestra in C major, 1778. This concerto was commissioned while Mozart was in Paris by a French nobleman who played the flute. His daughter played the harp. At this time, the harp was not yet a standard orchestral instrument, and Mozart wrote no other works for it. The blog post has a link to a video in which the harpist is mesmerizing, and so is watching the harp and the flute toss the melody back and forth. The other runner-up in music is Tampa Bay Heralds of Harmony, a tribute to Old Glory. This was posted for Independence Day. I love a good barbershop performance. Hat tip, Rand S. Moving on to opera. Two pieces tied for first. The first is Mozart's Voi che sapete from Le Nozze di Figaro, 1786. A young man sings about falling in love for the first time. The role of Cherubino in Nozze, Marriage of Figaro, is a trouser role, always sung by a soprano, because you can rely on an adult woman to pretend to be a teenage boy, but you can't rely on a teenage boy to sing a major opera role consistently and act it persuasively. The blog post has links to a performance by Isabel Leonard, my favorite Cherubino, hat tip Allegra D, and also a link to Charlotte Church, who sings a very poetic English version. The other item tied for first is Verdi's Bella figlia dell'amore from Rigoletto, 1851. I've given you a link to my translation and comments as a PDF. You can find at least a dozen versions of this quartet on YouTube. I've given you links to one where the camera work makes it easy to follow the different singers, and also a link to one where Pavarotti performs as the Duke. There's a gorgeous BBC production from 2011 with Placido Domingo as Rigoletto and Vittorio Grigolo, who makes me swoon, as the Duke. All right, runners-up under opera. There are two of these. First, Gilbert and Sullivan, Pirates of Penzance, 1983. This is an adaptation of a delightfully silly Gilbert and Sullivan operetta starring Kevin Kline, Linda Ronstadt, Rex Smith, and Angela Lansbury. Second runner-up, well, another runner-up. Another runner-up is Georges Bizet, the Habanera from Carmen, 1875. I've given you a link to a PDF with notes and translation, and a link to a recording by Angela Gheorghiu. And the third of the runners-up, but not necessarily third preference, is Verdi's Sempre Libera from La Traviata, 1853. The situation is that Violetta, a famed Parisian courtesan, La Traviata means the fallen woman, hosts a lavish party celebrating her recovery from an illness. She's introduced to idealistic young Alfredo. Together they sing a drinking song that's now famous, Libiamo. Alfredo admits that he's in love with Violetta and has been for some time. After he leaves, she wonders whether she should settle down with him, but she decides she needs to stay unattached so she can live her life as she pleases. Sempre libera, always free. While she's singing, though, she can hear Alfredo in the distance singing of his love. The vocal fireworks that Verdi calls for match Violetta's mood perfectly and are a wonderful contrast to Alfredo's simple vocal line. Alfredo's short bit is apparently very persuasive because when the curtain rises on Act 2, Violetta and Alfredo are living together in the country. I've given you a link to two videos, one by Venere Gimedieve and one by Renee Fleming. Moving on to movies. The winner is Top Gun Maverick from 2022. Heroism plus respect for the skill of American military pilots. I enjoyed this one very much, even though I'm not always a fan of Tom Cruise. And the runner-up is Goodnight Oppie from 2022. This is my kind of uplifting movie. The engineers and scientists who designed the Mars rover Opportunity were hoping it would last 90 days. It kept exploring for 15 years. This is extremely well told with interviews from those involved. Industrial Light and Magic used hundreds of thousands of photos from Mars to create the colors and geology of the CG animation, and they used audio recordings from Perseverance, a later Mars rover, for the sounds. Hat tip Del F. And winding up with TV, the winner is Reacher Season 1, 2022. It was created for Amazon Prime. The lead character, an ex-military police officer, combines strength, intelligence, and a low-key sense of humor. I highly recommend this season, as well as the Lee Child book on which it's based, but not so much the Reacher movies with Tom Cruise. And there are 2 runners-up under TV. The first is Community, from 2009 to 2015. Do you remember when Saturday Night Live made jokes that were fearless and funny rather than woke and winceful? Community reminds me of that. My husband and I kept this show for nights when we needed a dose of laughter to wind down. Its finale wins my award for most inventive. It's available on Netflix. And Only Murders in the Building, which started in 2021. It's an amusing murder mystery with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, available on Hulu. Hat tip Marion C. And just reminding you, in 2022 I published 3 books. Starry Solitudes is a collection of 98 poems that I've recommended over the past 5 years. Sunny Sundays is a collection of mostly other things, painting, sculpture, and so on, from 5 years. And the timeline 1900-2021 is just what it sounds like. For more of my writings, you can see the books and essays page on DianeDuranteWriter.com. DianeDuranteWriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the Sunday Recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on DianeDuranteWriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.